Okay, well, it's 1 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. Hi to everybody out there, and to those who will join us in a minute, or to those who join via the recording, which will be posted online. My name is Robert Benson. I'm the Director of Library Services at Roane State Community College, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to spend a few minutes this afternoon talk about my personal quest for a paperless workflow and share one recipe that I've figured out that works pretty well for me. So just a couple things right off the front, I guess I should say, is I'm the guy who always feels a little bit depressed when I get in my car in the morning because I really kind of expected that we would have teleportation by now. I kind of just believe that everything that we hear about technology and our awesome future is going to be true. And when people started promising a paperless workplace, I got real excited about it and I kept waiting for it to happen. My experience has actually been kind of the opposite. The more work I do online, it seems like the more things people want me to print out. So I don't know about you guys. My office looks like this. I have piles and piles of paper. Sometimes I neaten them up and they're kind of straight and organized, and sometimes they're a big stack like this. It's the other thing you ought to know about me is that I'm a librarian, and so it's a little bit embarrassing, to be honest, because librarians are supposed to be really, really good at controlling paper, and that is just not me. And I'm going to pause for a second. Nancy's got her hand raised. Hey, Nancy, what's up? Let me give you guys microphone rights. Can you hear me, Nancy? I see in the chat. Yeah, me too. I feel like everybody can kind of relate to this idea that we were supposed to be paperless by now, and we're not. As a supervisor and a manager of my department, I know that a lot of the paper, serves a purpose and is important. But most of the paper that I touch really is just kind of a mundane thing that requires either a specific action or really just a signature so that I ship it off to the next place. And most of the time, whenever I've dealing with those kinds of papers, my workflow has been really, really painful because it's been, find a document, print out the document because whoever produced the document is not going to let you edit it online, right? So you've got to download a PDF, you've got to handwrite on the document itself, and then you have to go back and scan the document back in so that you can ship it back to the person who sent it to you, where they're going to promptly probably print it out, do something with it, sign it, and then ship it out to somebody else. So the amount of paper printing that happens for this one document isn't just once. We're touching it one, two, three, sometimes four times. And then for me, the other issue that I run into is document control, is figuring out where in the world my documents are, because I've kind of given up on the idea of filing paper, because most of the paper that I deal with in a day is sign once and then never look at again. So a couple of different issues there. I just found myself spending an awful lot of time dealing with needless paper. What I wanted to do was play around with a couple of tools that I've been working with for a while. One of them is the iPad. I'm a big iPad fan for productivity, and so I have a lot of things that I do to make my personal life more efficient and effective with the iPad. But I felt like that I should be able to go paperless with an iPad, and so I just kind of had that in the back of my mind. Um, the the piece that really kind of made this work for me was putting three specific tools together. One of the tools, first of all, is a tool that I think most people know about and have, which is a thing called Dropbox. So I'm going to share my screen here and show you guys Dropbox. Make sure everybody can see this stuff. And is everybody familiar with Dropbox? Yeah, right. So Hal says, yeah, you love it. What do you love about Dropbox? Yeah, I know, Darren. Hi. I figured that was you. Uh, So yeah, so Hal, our friend Darren, is saying that the Dropbox app is or the Dropbox service is really really good for convenience and for sharing. For those of you who don't know about what Dropbox is, if you're watching on the recording, Dropbox is really just cloud-based storage. We hear a lot about moving documents to the cloud. And what they're talking about is basically instead of trapping a document on your laptop or on your computer or whatever it is, and then having to either haul that device around to get access to your documents, or in this case to print them out so that you have them. Dropbox is a free service that you can create an account with. And when you create an account, basically what it does is it's a place where you can send your files to live in the cloud. And when you put them in Dropbox, you can reach them from pretty much anywhere that you want them. So on the screen here, you can see the Dropbox website. And if you don't have an account, you can create an account right here. It's free. It's pretty easy to do. And then when I use this, I sign in. Actually, I usually just keep it signed in. We'll see. Good. I got my login the first time. And then this is a place where you can have all your files. So you guys are familiar with this real well. One of the things that I really like about Dropbox, though, is not just that I can lift files up into the cloud, but that Dropbox has an app, so I can put it right onto my iPad, which means that I can carry those documents with me wherever I want to. But even better than that, there's a little piece of software that you can download onto your desktop for your PC. And when you do that, essentially what you've got is a cloud-based folder on your hard drive, and so you can very easily move files into that folder, take files out of the folder, and so the workflow on your PC is very much like you're used to with everything else, except that when you push a file into the Dropbox folder, it is magically available for you everywhere that you access Dropbox. So it's on your computer, but it's also available through the iPad app. You can get to it from the iPhone app. There is also an Android version of Dropbox, so if you're an Android user, it's the same reality. So there are so many ways for convenience to be able to carry those, and they do sync, as Darren was saying. So everything kind of stays up to date automatically. So Dropbox is something that a lot of new iPad users are familiar, are big, a lot of longtime iPad users are familiar and comfortable with. And it is one of the first, I think, magical things about the iPad that I fell in love with, and I've been using it a lot. So the other piece, though, that I was starting to play around with was a thing called iAnnotate. iAnnotate is just one of many different kinds of document annotation apps. I was using this to, yeah, and Rhonda reminds us that when you invite people to use Dropbox, if you've got your storage maxed out, when you invite people into Dropbox, you get credit, and so that's how you get your Dropbox to be bigger. Or you can do what I need to do and just get rid of some files after you don't need them anymore. But document annotation apps, there are a million of them. The one on the screen is a thing called iAnnotate, and I like iAnnotate a lot. It's from a company called Branchfire, which is a really great company. They do really nice work, and I found this app to be very, very useful. And I believe it's a paid app. I think it was about like $5 or so. I haven't checked today to see what the price is at, but for me, well worth the money. And so I'm going to show you iAnnotate, but just remember that it's just one document annotation app. I got it because I wanted to basically keep notes on documents that I created. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to, do a lot of writing. I write short stories and stuff, and so I wanted to be able to open up a file on my iPad and jot down some notes on it for later editing. And then I kind of realized that it and Dropbox kind of work together in an interesting way. The third piece of the puzzle, though, is a stylus. The one that I've got and the one that I use is Jot Pro by Adonit. This is one that a lot of the Roane State faculty have. This is the one that was issued by the college. I like it really well because it's got a nice tip to it. It's very smooth writing, and it's just very comfortable. But all three of these really just represent parts of the recipe. Dropbox, I think, is a great way to go, but there are lots of different cloud-based storage services out there, so it doesn't have to be Dropbox. iAnnotate is a fantastic app for me in the way that I work, but it doesn't have to be iAnnotate. And any stylus will work for you. Spelling the stylus name, it's Jot Pro. So let me see if I can get that for you there. But Jot space Pro, and it's really nice. And it's one of those that's a fine point stylus as opposed to some of the fatter styluses that we use for navigating around on a screen. The reason that's important is because it was just like one day about a month or two ago when I started really thinking about the thing that frustrates me most with my paper control. And it's the thing I mentioned a minute ago, is that so much of the paper that I deal with as an administrator really doesn't need a lot of value add from me. What it needs is maybe a few notes. More often than not, it's a signature. And so people are emailing me documents, or I'm going to a website and downloading a document, and I need to do some easy entry on it, and I don't have a good way to do that. And the kicker is being able to sign documents electronically. So the recipe: Dropbox, iAnnotate, and a good stylus. So here's how I use those things. Basically what I've done is for my Dropbox, I told you I've basically downloaded the file onto my laptop. So at home or in my office here at the Harriman Campus Library, when I have a document that requires a signature or that requires some additional input, and I don't have a editable copy, what I will do is I will go and download that document. I'm going to see if I can show you an example of some of these things here. I'm going to go to my opinion, the college's human resources department is really, really good about this, about posting forms that you want to be available to edit online, but they're not. They're PDF documents. They're documents that are made to be printed out and then made to be filled out by hand and then copied and then scanned and then sent. It's all this stuff. And so that's really kind of where this came from. So what I did is I grabbed the travel request form that we use, and what I did is I went out to it, I grabbed it, and I'll show you. In my Dropbox on my computer, since you guys are probably familiar with this, I can create folders just like any other Windows-based file. I can create a location for it, and then it'll sync with the Dropbox. So you can see all the green checks. Those are things that have synced up with Dropbox in the cloud. So they're ready for me anywhere. I've created a folder for today so you can see this stuff. And so basically what I did is I've got this document that I've downloaded. And so the first thing I'll do once I've got all my pieces together is I find a document that needs editing, and I'll go into it and I will save it to my computer so that I can edit. And I will drop that into the Dropbox folder. So I won't save it on my computer. I want it to be on the Dropbox. And that's important. I'll show you why in just a sec. So I've created one called Travel Authorization Demo for Webinars. So I'm just going to open that for you so you can see that. Yeah, I had it and then I lost it. And here we go. So, so basically I just download the document, and then what I'm going to do is just do some basic editing to it. And so this is an example of the document I've done some editing with. And so all of this stuff is editable by keyboard, so that's very nice. I can go ahead and get all this filled out. But this is my nemesis right down here, right, is the requested signature. Because this is the place where I go, oh God, I did all that great stuff. I've got everything working well, and now I've got a printed copy so that I can actually sign it with, let's say, blue ink, so everybody knows it's really me signing it. It's a real person, which I kind of find silly. and then I've got to scan it and send it back because of this line right here. So there ought to be a better way to deal with this kind of thing. Well, so there is. The reason I saved this working copy of this file into the Dropbox app is because I can then open it on my iPad. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you my iPad so you can see what the workflow looks like. I'm going to go ahead and turn my mirroring on so that you can see. So this is my iPad, and so I've worked with a document. I've basically done a save as into a Dropbox folder that lives on my hard drive. It syncs with Dropbox, and so now when I go to my iPad, I can open up Dropbox and can scroll through all the many folders because I told you I'm a big fan, and I can find the folder where I saved that document, and here it is right here. I should have told you a second ago that what I like to do actually is save a PDF. So when I'm in, say it's an Excel document, what I like to do is actually go up here and go to Save As and then choose the PDF output option. And so I do that, and so that's what you got. So I'm opening up on the iPad the PDF version of that, and so all I have to do is just click. And you can see it's rendering the PDF right now. I'll give it just a second here. This almost always happens when you're showing off, right? Everything drags down just a little bit. Let me try this one more time here. I'm going to get out, and I'm going to get back into my folder that I created. I'm going to open up of course, right? So I think right now what we're waiting on is the wireless signal to draw that document down. So what's going to happen next is what I'm going to do is in the upper right-hand corner here, you see the famous open in symbol here. And I'm going to see if it'll let me push that over even though it's not open yet. And when you see this screen, there is an open in option here. And so what I'm going to do is, it's still exporting. Here we go, great. And so now it's going to give me an option. It says, where do you want to open this? And you have lots of different options. This is where I said that having a document annotation app is important. It doesn't have to be iAnnotate. That's just the one I use. There are lots of them out there. Some are free, some are quite expensive. So what I've done is I've opened the app. I've moved the app from my computer to the Dropbox folder. It's available in the cloud. I've gone to my iPad. I've opened it up in Dropbox. I've pushed it over into iAnnotate, the document editor on my my iPad. And then you'll notice over on the side here, there are all these different tools. What I'm going to do is kind of just scroll down. I'm going to take my stylus here, right? My stylus. And I'm going to choose the signature line right here. And it gives me a little signature option. And so I'm going to tap down on the screen where I want that. And then I just move my fingers over. And then you guys get to see my wonderful handwriting. And if I like my signature, then all I need to do is just say done. And now I have on my iPad an annotated version of that file. I could also, if I wanted to, add the date in, which I'll do now. And so if I wanted to, I can of course also, let's clear that out. Actually, we'll do this another way here. You can also add in text, so you can annotate PDFs. They don't have to be annotatable PDFs, right? You can save PDFs that allow you to do markup, but not everybody does that all the time. And so what this option right here does is allows you to take a text field, it's what they call the typewriter, drop it into a particular place, and then I can just drop in my my dates. What is today? Today is the 3rd. And say OK. And then I can move that wherever I'd like for it to be. I can make it bigger and smaller, so I can do lots of nice things with that. And now I'm going to check box up top. And so now basically I've signed it, I've added some date here. I can do as much of that editing as I want to there. When I'm done with this document, what I'll do is I will tap the, all right, there's my Twitter. I will tap the tab up top, and this is the way that they want you to share it back. So basically, I've taken a document, I've saved it to Dropbox, shipped it out to iAnnotate, and now I'm going to ship it back. I'm going to share it and open in, and then it gives me these different options for how to do this. Since I'm going to be sending this document back to somebody else, and I don't know exactly what they're going to do with it on their end, I tend to flatten these things. So I'm just going to send it as a flattened PDF, and I'm going to push it back to Dropbox again. Everything comes through Dropbox, everything goes back to Dropbox. Notice the screen transition. It basically said, okay, here it goes. And so now you have the save to Dropbox command. You have a file name right here. It's the same file name that I started with. The save location you can change if you like. You can put it anywhere in your Dropbox folder that you'd like. And then once you've gotten that, basically, I'm going to choose that folder, and you can give it a different name. I'll just give it the name 2 and save it. And now it is loading that document over. So now I have a version of the document that is annotated with my signature and some other text that I added. And at this point, I'm going to leave my iPad and go back to Dropbox on my computer so that you can see that here is the document that I edited just now, 1:22 p.m., demo for webinar 2. And when I open that document, I now have a version of that document that is annotated and has the additional text that I added. So I love this because now I have a document the way I wanted it. I didn't have to print, I didn't have to scan, I didn't have to do any of that stuff just to put my signature on it. And now I've got it where I can get it anytime I want to. And the last mile is usually opening up your email and just attaching that file as an email. For me, works really well. On paper, it looks like an awful lot of steps, but I've gotten quite comfortable with it. You may not can tell that from the webinar. There's a lot of different screens happening right now, but I actually find it to be quite a bit quicker than doing the paper output and the signing and the scanning and the sending and all of that. And for me, the big advantage actually is that you have one instance of the document. So if I were to name that file the same as my original file, I would be replacing it, and I would have it in a file that I can carry with me wherever I go all the time. So for documents that I'm editing that I care about my notes on, I don't have to carry around big binders of things. I've just got them. So I write a poem and I mark it up. I can just work with it that way. So this is just one recipe for my personal quest for paperless. Again, like I say, paper is a really, really good technology. It's very, very useful. And so I'm not trying to tell you that, I think the future is entirely paperless. But I do think that in terms of efficiency, I lost a lot of time just dealing with paper, and I wanted that time back. And so this is what I'm working with to make that happen. So just a quick introduction. I'm curious now. I'm going to stop talking because I want to know what you guys think. Does this sound like something that you'd be willing to try? That's great. So yeah, it works pretty well. And Darren, our friend Darren Howe, points out that you may be doing versions of this already, and so the quest for your process is really going to be trying to figure out what works really well for you. So I'd love to know if you've got a different workflow, or if there's something in here that that you can rig up to work better for you. At Rhone State, I think that as an administrator, my burden is trying to figure out the process for documents that I've got to sign and documents that I've got to keep control of, and all that kind of stuff. As a faculty member working with papers that you've got to grade and feedback that you need to share back, There are other options. D2L has an app called the Assignment Grader. The concept is the same type of deal. You've got something that lives up in the cloud, and then you pull it down to your iPad, you work with it, you send it back up, and it's always available for you online, offline. But there are some other workflows around that. But these are the tools. And I appreciate Chris's comment. I think that for administrators, absolutely, it really comes down to saving paper and saving time and being able to keep control of your documents so you know where they are. And so if I can help save myself some time and then share what I learned, I feel very happy about that. So, well, we like to keep the webinars short, so I wanted to, I think I've shared what I wanted to share, but just I'm so fascinated by the ways that people adapt technology to their own needs. I feel like, a few years ago we were in a place where the work was always trying to figure out how to adapt yourself to the tools. And so you go, oh, great, I've got this new software program. What can I do with it? And we live in a world now where there are so many great tools. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. Some of them are iOS, some of them are Android, some of them are computer-based, whatever it is. We have so many tools. And so I'm teaching myself to start asking the questions is, where are the gaps? What is it that I'm not doing as well as I want to do? And then let's find a process to make that better. And that's where I'm excited to see the college heading with this technology is it's not so much about radical revolution. It's not so much about re-engineering everything that we do. But if we can find tiny ways to make things easier and better, and then we share those ideas with each other, then we're kind of crowdsourcing our own professional development and our own intelligence. So thanks so much for joining with me. I've been really, really pleased to be part of the CTAT webinar series, Teacher Tip Thursday. And just as a reminder, you guys may know this, but from the CTAT website, you can see the schedule pretty much all the time. Let me get back to the CTAT schedule. But on the CTAT webpage, you will find the Teacher Tip Thursday. And there's always links to the current program today, as well as past programs. So if you're not watching in real time and you want to explore more about what's out there, please dig through. And if you have ideas on things you'd like to see us do, let us know. So, well, good deal. I hope everybody has a good day, and let me know how your paperless life works out, right? Good deal. Thank you all.